Now, I was diagnosed with ADHD in the second grade. My parents divorced very early on. I think by the time I was in the first grade. And I was having a lot of trouble being a poor, skinny white kid in a bad area. And every weekend I had to go to my biological father's very trashy and unfortunately destructive trailer park. But it was in the third grade that my ADHD really started to cause a lot of problems for me. And my mother got remarried, and I had to repeat third grade. I stayed back, I was held back. And I went to 3 different third grade classes. I had already been in lots of fights by the time I was that age. I had experienced racism. And I was living with a lot of turmoil emotionally. I'm an artist and an empath. And that has been a blessing for most of my life. But being an emotional person with ADHD, growing up was very difficult. So my mother decided never to medicate me. I mean, never. She was very holistic and homeopathic. She put me on remedies, and she taught me meditation in the second grade. And she had me meditate every single night to the point where it became second nature to me. I've been meditating my entire life, and as an adult now, I typically will meditate 30 to 60 minutes per session in the evening. And I can tell you, meditation alone has changed so much of my life. I don't even know where I'd be without it. Now back to ADHD. The other thing that has helped my ADHD greatly has been studying active listening. Active listening is the practice of listening to understand and then to respond rather than just listening to respond. So in active listening, we will listen to someone speaking. We'll allow ourselves the time to process that or repeat what they've just said to make sure we understand and comprehend, and then process a response. That slows down things. And mentally, I've also implemented living in the present. Being present, as we know, is a great practice, especially as an adult with ADHD. But growing up, I didn't quite understand what that meant. But I also studied martial arts and boxing, and my adopted father taught me fighting techniques. And part of the fighting techniques that he taught me was slowing down your breathing. So I was so blessed at this time in my life to have my mother teaching me meditation, active listening, and living in the present, and having my adopted father teaching me martial arts, fighting, breath control. And by the time I was in middle school, I was able to sit in a classroom and control a large part of my ADHD. Now in high school that changed, because high school I had more issues with people. And I went through a lot of changes personally. I had a lot of problems with teachers, authority, and I acted out a lot more back then. But by college, I was back to meditation, yoga, active listening, and being in the present. Especially because I started to get into more serious and meaningful relationships and intimate relationships with women. So all of those practices helped me greatly in those relationships. And I'll do another video about being present in your relationships, because especially men, intimately, you're never going to get what you want from your partner if you can't stop being selfish and start being in the present moment with your partner. That's the only way you're going to get what you want. So back to ADHD. As an adult, 6 years ago, I got hit by one of my construction dump trucks in the frontal lobe of my brain. Gave me a major TBI, traumatic brain injury. Cracked my skull, bruised my brain right there. That changed me a bit. I should have died from that impact, or at least been a vegetable, according to surgeons. But what that did for me was it allowed me to start thinking differently and processing things differently. And so unfortunately, a lot of the ADHD behaviors started to come back a little bit. Kind of like that anxiety, that anxiousness in conversation, impatience, and getting easily distracted, right? So I've really honed in, really tried to focus on my meditations and my mindfulness. And that has helped me greatly. I don't feel my ADHD affecting me anymore. But it will come and go. So when we say cure ADHD, it's more about handling it in the most productive and healthy ways. But start implementing those things. And I can guarantee you, it will be much easier and healthier for you and those around you. And these are things that we can teach our children. We can teach them at a very young age. I have 6 kids. I've taught all of them meditation. And within meditation, we do mindfulness and especially deep cleansing breaths throughout the day. And it works. Try it. Let me know what you think.